a later date, and you say you are hard done by, please. So resolvearm.org is the place if you have concerns, all your public issues, put it up there, and we'll keep amplifying. And we also urge, politicians, societal people, people that work in the vanguard of making society better. We have used our own money to set up this portal and launch a not-for-profit around this portal. So please go there. There are many cases there, and you can help people actually resolve these cases. So it has to be said. There's a case here, a village OBLG in Nasarawa State named Ada Village that has more than 2 decades been suffering from infrastructure. Abandoned poor upgrade road at the temporary site of Federal Polytechnic Kaltungo, Gombe State, built for a gym dilapidated in Kologo community in Kaltungo LG area of Gombe State. Economic poverty, high inflation, over-reliance, weak diversification, killing us. The economy is getting bad. Gully erosion washing off some areas in Aochi. There's a need for intervention. Since 2023, Umuguma Road in Imo State has been neglected by the state government. Umuguma Road in Imo State. Complaints on request for urgent provision of portable source of water. The government, we need to bring government's attention for a reliable source of water in Babanrafi. Complaints on abandoned electrification projects in Kawu Community, Buhari area local government, a call for urgent action. Lack of transparency in civil servant recruitment. We don't have water in my community. Ajonoja, Abuchi Dekina local government area of Kogi State. Deplorable economic roads across Akpa local government and Amala local government area. Our farmers have suffered. Badu Tupo Bioju Road. Connections precede meritocracy in offering appointments. These are some of the things. Mokwa Bida, Agaye, Lapai, Lambata Road need urgent attention seriously. It's in a poor condition. Somebody is complaining about road dualization in Ileoluji that has been stopped for 3 months. Kangang Road is in shambles in Plateau State. Kangang Road is in shambles. Asking for accountability and was in jail for some months now. Missing person alerts. Udiala Praise Chinye, a 300 level mass communication student of University of Lafia, full Lafia, has been reported missing. Complaints on neglect on Ukoko community and other rural roads in Ankpa local government in Kogi states. Abandoned road construction project. There's an abandoned road at Ijebu-Ode, Ogun State, from Obalende to Imodimos on roundabouts. Lack of functional health care in Umujioga community in Ewa local government area of Emuha local government area of River State. Poor network and internet services at Abacha Road, Maraba, in the local government area of Nasarawa State. It's called Resolve Arm. You see, I had to set up this not-for-profit with some friends about this year, and we created this website where people can report things happening to them in this country. That's another addition I'm having to the not-for-profit space, where people can report problems. It's called Resolve Arm, RESOLVEAM.org, Resolve Arm. Insecurity and kidnapping. There's a serious case in Ikweredi, Awara, Ubumi Road. They are complaining about telecommunication facilities in Dekena, erosion affecting Sabongeri community. I want to report erosion affecting Sabongeri community in Kachia local government area. Niger State government has failed the people of Mokwa. There was a flood that took place in Mokwa that killed more than 300 people. We need government involvement. There's a lack of drinking water and bad roads in Atakpa, Ogulewe, Imi community in Benue State, help the poor Nigerians, non-disbursement of UAAG grants, all right. Ajibode, despite being in the heart of Ibadan, there's a bad road around Ajibode area. An unknown person stole a parked Camry 2005 at Paco bus stop area in Dopemu. Refuse dump on streets, particularly Ojo Iwo Road and Shasha in Ibadan. Request for intervention into unauthorized deduction by 37,000 naira by MTN and failure of regulatory agencies. Okay. So these are some of the things, P1 Heritage, delayed refusal to allocate land, purchase land through P1 Heritage and concerns has been there since 2018. These are many things. Scammed investment of 1.2 million with farmfundsafrica.com. Ezefi Tochukwu Benedict reporting as regards investment in Farm Funds Africa of 1.2 million naira has not gotten something for. Demands of refund of 3.4 million naira. So these are many of the things that we have highlighted there. So that's our section on helping Nigerians. So please just send these cases to Resolve them, and you can go and check your case there. The cases are there. We are running it to be able to help a lot of Nigerians. Today, I want to ask a pertinent politicians a very important question. That if you say you love God and you love our Lord Jesus, if our Lord Jesus were to run our country, do you think how you are running it is what he will do? Do you think he will endorse the way you have treated the people that are under you? Do you think that you have been a servant leader and you have led in ultimate humility? Do you think that you have led without self-interest and embraced righteous governance? Do you think you have anchored your leadership in spiritual growth through prayer and sacrificial service to the people? I know Nigeria is often marked by the quest for power, but Jesus shows us the way by the sacrificial act of washing the feet of his disciples. Are you constantly using your position to wash the feet of the people? You can check John chapter 13, verse 14 to 15. Jesus also rejected greed. When tempted with worldly power and kingdom, Jesus rejected selfish gain, focusing on God's eternal kingdom. Matthew 4, verse 8 to 10. Have you, as a politician, ever thought about where you're going to spend your eternity? You think you're going to be in power forever. Even if you stay there for over 20 years, you're not going to be in power forever. And you're not going to live forever. So have you thought of your soul? And for further reading on that, read Matthew 4, verse 8 to 10. Have you thought of your soul? Have you thought of your life? Have you thought of where you're going to spend your eternity? Have you thought of what is going to befall you? Some of you, you even have to reap the reward of your bad works here on earth. Have you thought about that? You think you can do anything you are doing and go scot-free with it. But don't you know that there's a God that watches and judges? Have you thought about the judgment of God and what the judgment of God makes manifest? These are the very important questions. 1 minute, guys, that I want you to ask yourself. And I want you to think about. So, have you thought of your eternity? Jesus had all the power, but used it to heal the sick, feed the hungry, and defend the weak, not to impress or enrich himself. You can check Acts 10, verse 38. True transformation in public office cannot happen by laws alone. It requires an inward spiritual rebirth and continuous growing in God. So, how are you growing every day in God? You, as a leadership that has the power to help people, but you destroy their lives. Are you purging your hearts every time? Are you looking at your hearts? Do you even have the fruit of the Spirit? Do the decisions of the suffering people, do the plight of the suffering people guide your decision? For you to be able to grow as a leader, you must die to yourself. Spiritual growth begins when a leader surrenders personal ambition to God's will. A politician cannot lead others to peace if their own heart is full of corruption and pride. Galatians 2, verse 20. As a leader, you are going to do toggery. Look at what is happening in Osun State. Toggery here and there. And I'm ashamed of all the key leaders. None of you are debating each other. You are doing toggery. So, what is your life about? The fruit of the Spirit. A growing spirit produces love, kindness, joy, peace, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Where are these missing in governance and hardship thrives? Galatians 5, verse 22 to 23. So, missing in our governance? Why are leaders not embracing the fruit of the Spirit? Why are leaders not embracing the goodness of God? Why are they embracing their own selfishness? Why are they embracing their own capacity to press other people down when they ought to be lifting other people up? The truth has to be said. Leaders should think about it. And guess what? We have also set up a new channel. Just go to your WhatsApp and check for Rufai Oseni. Rufai Oseni. I've launched a new channel on WhatsApp where you can get all of these Sunday messages. As soon as they are done, the links for all of these Sunday messages are there. So for those that do WhatsApp channel, Rufai Oseni, if you follow on Facebook, I've set the link to the channel. All the programs I do across board will be also on that WhatsApp channel so that we can reach more people. So that you can go there, have the link, and listen again. Just search my name. If you go to, and how do you do your WhatsApp channel? On your WhatsApp app, go to your updates. When you go to your update, there's a search bar on your updates. Check Rufai Oseni. All of the work we've done is there. In fact, the exclusive documentary we did on the community where there's an oil spill. We're also helping out the people of Uziri. These are the work we've done extensively. And Manjem, our friend that leads our outreach in the north, we have sent some money to him to buy some small drugs for our outreach for the IDP camps. So I've given him an instruction. I gave him some part of the money because this is a man that also uses money to fend for us. So what he will have used for transport, about 10,000, I said, keep that portion for you and your family, but send that money to the IDP camp, to the contacts you have on ground there so that they can buy drugs, so that we save money, since we didn't realize a lot. And I also sent some part of my money, you get, there. So, yes, somebody is saying I should talk about presidential candidates where person presented only invested. I've talked about it at the start of the show. I don't know why you people join late. I've talked about it at the start of the show. Some people didn't produce their their primary and their secondary school. But we also know in former election cycles, they produced their primary and their secondary school. It was when talk came about those primary and secondary school that they can't produce it again. But please, it is best you know and scrutinize people. I mean, people that can't produce their primary and their secondary school and they want to lead the country, where is the accountability? These are questions we should ask. Daily renewal, just as Jesus often withdrew to lonely places to pray, leaders must seek God's daily guidance and wisdom rather than relying on human cleverness or deceit. Leaders should check Luke 15, verse 16 for this. They must constantly renew themselves. Because you see, whenever there's a leader, there are sycophants around him. There are sycophants around him. And you see, it doesn't want people really like you. They like the crown on top of your head. Some of the friends you have today, if you don't have what you have today any longer, then they will not be here with you. So you have to be careful. This is a message for Nigerian leaders out there. You must have justice and righteousness. God demands fairness for the poor and the vulnerable. Leaders will give an account of how they treated the common man. Proverbs 31, verse 8-9. Integrity in action. Let your yes be yes. No, it's a very sad point. Did I tell you why politicians fight with journalists so much? It's because when journalists hold them accountable by what they say, they get so ashamed, they get defensive. Their yes will never be their yes. Their no will never be their no. Their standard of accountability is faulty. If they say do a road, or you claim you've done a road and they say you've not done the road, what befalls on you is to send people there to go and check the road again. And if you have not done it well, you do it well. But if you say you've not done the road, oh my goodness, everybody starts to scream and shout. I'm not saying you don't have a right to tell your other side of the story. But after telling your other side of the story, please, have you fixed that problem? And that's why I set up Resolve Van to also help the citizens. Resolve Van is being funded entirely by the 5 founders, the 5 friends. These are some of the people who went to school together. And I told the story many times. I met up with some of my school friends in Nottingham, and I said, what can we do to impact society? And we set up Resolve. It's being funded. Our running bill every month goes to hundreds of thousands of naira to run the websites, to pay staff, but we fund it with our own money just for the benefit of you, so that you can put your complaints there. Fund it from our own pockets. What about give backs? The standard of accountability. Every power is temporary. Every leader one day will stand before the ultimate judge. Romans 14:12. Every leader one day will stand before the ultimate judge. And who is the ultimate judge? That's God. And we need to look at those things critically. Sorry. We need to look at those things critically. Because when you stand before the God of accountability, what will you say you did with your life? That's why you need to fight corruption. That your life is not about you as a leader. Your life is constantly about accountability. How accountable are you going to be? And these are the questions we will constantly ask you. How accountable are you going to be? If you don't want accountability, then there's no point being a leader. There's no point being a leader. If you don't want the level of scrutiny, there's no point being a leader. there's no point being a leader. That's just it. I can see people talking about the Mokwa floods. Yes, because the Mokwa floods till today, the people have not been helped totally. We talk about it a lot. Until today, we have not seen the end of it. So we want that level of accountability. Sorry, I'm trying to get the phone lines ready. I don't know what's happening. They're not coming up. Okay. So let's take one or two calls. 081 8 099 1991. 0818 099 1991. And also here, we're also going to be partnering with some churches to amplify some of the good works they're doing, mostly their charity work. So from time to time, when you hear me talking about some of the things some churches are doing, yeah, in fact, I met the pastor of City of David the other day and I said I would like to collaborate. I mean, if you listen to my phone, to play the tapes of Pastor Escom 4 there. So we'll also collaborate with them on what they are doing. Podfest is also coming up, a place for podcasters to highlight their views. 0818 099 1991. Hello, how are you?
Good morning, sir.
Morning. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Can you speak up? We cannot hear you. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, please.
I cannot hear you, Johnson. The line is not clear enough. I'm sorry. I have to let you go. I cannot hear you properly. 0818 099 1991. Hello, how are you?
Yeah, good morning.
Morning. What's your name?
Yeah, my name is Penny from Shagamu.
From Shagamu. Oh, okay. Great to have you. A lot of our Jabu people calling today. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, good job as usual.
Yeah.
So, for me, I think the major issue from the point of view on this morning is we don't really have the people who have the heart of God in government or leadership. And then what determines that office was the criteria that the office, people that they are way into the office. And that process itself is not safe. So how do I expect the godliness in that case? What shocked is to hear the president say no fear in politics. That statement really shocked me. So that is a...
I mean, it speaks volume about the morals, and that's why you see people like Cardinal Onaikon has come out to say. I say, please, you don't say that. It's not everything. We must have some level of decency in politics. We must have some days. If you're saying everything is fair in war, and you're saying also that in politics, that means reading is also fair. That means talking is also fair. That means doing evil is also fair. You don't say that as a leader. Yeah.
We just need, because I see Nigeria as a country of bring people, but in terms of the coordinates for us to do the right thing, that is the far from us. So for me,
Thank you.
I'm just hoping and then thank you.
Thank you so much. See, the problem with Nigeria is that a lot of the money that I used to run for political offices are either drug or dirty money. And when people make this money, they try to shield themselves by gaining political office. And that's why you see the problems we have. The value system definitely will drop. I mean, there's no how. The value system will drop. There's no how. There's no how. So people can be collecting gifts and make money the priority. And it's not about the ability of the individual to get it for you.
Good morning.
What's your name?
my name is Abu Makwa, and I am calling from Niger State, Mokwa local government.
Tell me, have they not still helped you guys in Mokwa after the flood?
They haven't. As we speak, it's raining season and the victims are stranded as we speak. They are just, dancing around in and the place is the situation of that is nothing to write home about. And as we have I think about is 7 billion that the president up for the Minister of Works, nothing has been done. The state, the money that were contributed in the state emergency act, the governor has not said anything regarding that money. He has not done anything with that money. And nothing is really happening. They are taking us for granted, been shouting, crying every day, and nothing is happening in Mokwa local government.
Please, my brother, keep calling me every Sunday on this show. I'll keep amplifying it. I'll keep flying. In fact, I saw some messages on Resolve Am, and I just read it out too on Resolve Am. We'll keep amplifying all of these social causes. Hello, how are you? Hello? All right. Hit us up 0818 099 1991. Hello, how are you?
Good morning, sir.
Morning, where are you calling from?
Yes, I'm coming from Satellite.
Go ahead, ma. What's your name?
Yeah, I love your way, sir. And what I'm trying to say is continue what you're saying, because one day God will regret the hands of enemies in children's of God.
Thank you. God bless you, ma. 0818 1991. We have a raft of hot messages that will go on at the various websites you already know. Hello, how are you? Hello? Hello? Good morning. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Go ahead. Talk to us. Ooh, we lost that. Hello? Hello?
Good morning.
Morning, yeah. A lot of calls coming in. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, what's your name?
Good morning. Mr. Rufai Oseni.
What's your name?
This is calling from Lagos.
Okay, go ahead. Talk to us, sir.
Okay, my brother, I don't have anything to contribute. I just want to encourage you to Nigeria.
Please, sir.
God bless you.
Amen, sir.
The people we want in our country.
Amen, sir.
Nigeria can move forward.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
God bless you, my brother.
Thank you. Guys, I don't know what we're going to do, but I don't know if people can if we can get a volunteer here, all right, that can raise money for Mokwa victims so that at least we send something to them. I don't know if there's a volunteer that can be accountable enough or raise money for Mokwa victims so we can send something to them. It's really important we do, please. Hello?
Hello, sir. My name is William calling from local government of Plateau State.
Of Plateau State. Go ahead. Tell me about what's happening there.
Yeah, killed in the tank.
What area is that?
District.
In our district. What district is that?
Dumac.
Dumac district. People are being killed there.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And there's no any serious action. There's no any serious reporting that will reach the government.
Oh, we need to Duma district. People are being killed there, and the case is underreported. You see, that's what I'm saying. That the insecurity is more than even the ones that is being reported. JB is the one that gets on the media that we report. What about the ones that people never get anybody in the media to report for them?
We don't have any serious media that they will be still all those support because almost every week our people are being killed.
Duma, right? Duma district, right?
Yes, Plateau South.
DMUA, Duma District, Plateau South.
Yes.
Killings are happening every weekend.
Almost every weekend.
Almost every weekend.
Yes, Duma District.
Duma District. Thank you so much for that information. Hello, how are you?
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Morning.
Yeah, I was trying to call you. I was a soft.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I don't know what's happening to your line. 0818 099 1991. 0818 099 1991. 0818 99 1991. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Morning, sir.
My name is Shibu. I'm calling from Ipaja. We hardly hear your callers.
Okay.
Yes, that's the problem we have here from Ipaja area.
Okay, you hardly hear the callers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that feedback. I appreciate you. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello, good morning, Rufai.
Morning. What's your name?
This is Nelson from Amu.
Great to have you, my brother. Bless you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for all that you have been doing.
Bless God.
I don't know. My age, I am in my 50s now, mid 50s. And I don't think I know everything concerning this country. But I know a little through reading and information, especially the ones now you are giving in VOP. We have been making analysis, intellectual and non-intellectual analysis. But it seems that so many things are hidden. It seems that the truth is not being told about exactly what is happening. Now, please, Rufai, my brother, you've talked in so many ways. In fact, the way I'm even listening this morning, you are preaching. You want to believe too, you are, because it is the word of God that you are sharing. Now, I want to know the killings in Plateau and in other places, Benue and other places. It has been said that this is not just killing, that there is an agenda. And this agenda, who are the people perpetrating all these things? I want to know whether this country, whether it belongs to the Fulanis, or is the Fulanis the ones taking decision in government? If they are not the ones taking decision in government, why is it that all these killings, nothing is happening to it? Some people will want to say that they are mining and they are mining whether gold or precious things in the north, and they are using the money for
Let me answer your question. Let me answer your question quickly. If you read the Nigerian Constitution, section 14, subsection 2B, it says the sole responsibility of government is the security of life and property. If they kill people in Nigeria, go and hold government accountable. Stop the killing. You have your votes. Vote anybody that can stop killing out. That's just it. The sole responsibility, protection of life and property of the people, welfare of the people. Section 14, subsection 2 is written in the Constitution, is the ground norm, is the guiding principle. If they cannot stop the killing, hold the government accountable. Pure and simple. We do not care how The killing is being planned, and all of what we want is that the government should stop killing. That's why we gave our sovereignty to them. That's why we gave our rights to them. That's why we bear allegiance to the flag. Pure and simple.
So what is stopping the government from doing what they are supposed to do?
If they don't do it, it is your right to hold them accountable. I don't need to know what is stopping them. The contract you and I have with the government is section 14, subsection 2B. It says the government must give me security. If they can't do it, there's a breach in contract. And how do you breach in contract? You declare force majeure. You say you don't want the government. And how do you do it? Through the ballots. Simple. It's time we stop playing kid gloves and playing rubbish and doing ourselves. No, there's a contract. The constitution is a contract between government. If he cannot do it, vote him out. If another government comes in, they can't do it, vote them out until they can do it. Pure and simple. Those in our Instagram family, oh, they've left us. The device has gone off. So sorry about that. But please, go ahead, go there. Rufai Oseni on WhatsApp channels. So you'll be able to get this, material. So you'll be able to get this material. And we'll be able to send you everything via WhatsApp channels. We'd like to thank all of you for your time. Thank all of you for joining us. And thank you so much. We pray as you go this day, God bless you. He keeps you. He makes his face shine over you, give you peace on every side. And he helps you. Go to the YouTube page. We'll continue the show there. The second part of the show begins right about now. Bless you all. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting edition of Rufai's podcast here on the Nevern Podcast Group. I mean, I've got somebody that needs no introduction. An avid runner, former minister, former governorship aspirant, the man that revamped the FRSC, and very good-natured man. Osita Chidoka is here. I'm a firm believer in Nigeria, I should say, and great to have you. Thank you so much for joining us on this. Really, really appreciate you for your time. At some point, we should run about 10K or 5K together one of these days, and just keep running. Let me ask you this, because we're also going to be going down memory lane and learning from you. What did you learn by working with Ojo Madueke?
That's a serious question.
Mm-hmm.
I learned everything. Two things. Before Ojo Madueke, I had worked with 2-3 ministers. General Oseni as a protocol officer, and I was also a speechwriter for him. I've worked with Chief Isi Okete at the Ministry of Works. He was Minister of State. I was his personal assistant. And then I had worked with Kontagora and Bunu before Ojo. So, but Ojo was the minister that had the greatest impact on me, because he wasn't a minister-assistant relationship. He was more of a mentor. And his wide reading, his physical fitness as a person, his enormous curiosity, and also belief in the Nigerian and the Black possibility, the Black race, impacted me greatly. So I didn't just learn the work of Ministry of Transport, but I also learned. He wrote his speeches himself. I was his assistant. My job was basically to type it, because he likes to write his speeches. He was a thinker. He was a mind. So with him, I learned that the challenge of rules, of keeping rules, is the major issue afflicting Nigeria and African countries. That the idea of leadership in Africa is somebody who is above the rules. But that most civilizations is that the idea of a leader is one who obeys the rules. And I see that has been the major tension between our traditional society, where the traditional ruler is the king. He is more or less above the rules. And we have brought that into democracy and into modern governance. And that's why we're having this challenge of people and institutions. So it was very interesting working with Ojo. I learned so much, and most of the philosophies I espouse today came from him.
But before then, you were very big on student activism. In fact, we saw your name come up in the newspapers June 12th, around that time. I mean, tell us your own June 12th experience. Then you also tell us about that, your famous camcorder that you showed off at a point.
June 12th was almost an article of faith for people of my generation at that time. I was in the university, but while I was in the university, I was also working as an intern in the Guardian newspaper. So because of long ASU strikes, so I walked into the Guardian and met the MD, Ladegunola, who gave me a job as an intern.
Ladbone.
Yeah, Ladbone. Because of my successes on the business page with BC Ojediron, Resina Bodo, a couple of guys then at the Guardian. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So Edwin Magnago was in the editorial desk of the Guardian at that time. Ruben Abati was the youngest member of the editorial board at that time. So I made interesting relationships, but also I got exposed to my colleagues in the civil rights movement, in the student league movement, and in the course of my trying to become NAN's president, I got to meet Chief MKO Abiola after the June 12th election when he wanted to reclaim his mandate. Then he saw that I had advertised calling on students to vote for him. That advert was actually paid for by my father, who agreed with our philosophy then that despite a Muslim ticket, it was time for the military to go, and that students should come out and not allow religion and tribe to divide us at that time. We should be united to get the military out of office.
How much did you pay for that advert then? How much was the cost of that advert?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it was about 6,000 naira.
That was a lot of money.
Yeah, that was a lot of money, yes. It was about 6,000 naira for that page, quarter page at that time at the Guardian. So that brought me close to Abiola, who then introduced me to his wife, Kudirat, and then we started the whole process of electing a NAN's president, leading to the emergence of Dennis Inyang, who then became the NAN's president because he was now rezoned in our zone. There was micro-zoning, so I was literally zoned out of the NAN's presidency at that time. So Inyang became president, and we all went into the trenches trying to reclaim June 12. But at the time of the advert, it was roundly rejected by many of my comrades in the Enugu campus. Most of the Igbos were opposed to the idea of a Muslim ticket. They were opposed to the idea of MKO. But I saw that removing the military from government was a far more important issue than nitpicking about whether they were Christians or Muslims. And that has been my position with Nigeria, that sometimes we need to rise above our differences to be able to get the country going.
So that happened. Then let me segue the story. After all of that, you went through the normal hell and high water people went through in June 12th. Then this camcorder came into your life that has seen many spheres of your life. I mean, that was your first, dash in media. Today, you own your own media company, by the way. I want you to also talk about that. But was this camcorder and interning at the Guardian the early days for your media project and what you're doing now? You could also talk about it because I promise we're going to talk about it.
So I have been fascinated with the media from childhood. So as a secondary school student, my pocket money in secondary school included money for the Guardian and for Newswatch. So teachers read my Newswatch magazine because I was a student. I was a deputy senior prefect in school. So my father gave me pocket money, including money for newspaper. So I had Guardian Monday to Friday, and then I bought on Sundays too, because I used to enjoy reading the Guardian on Sunday, then edited by Ama Organ. It was a paper you read for almost 2 days because of of the Guardian on Sunday. I got to the university. I started publishing a cyclostyle news letter called it was called the Mirror of Public Opinion, and I was a year one student. So I will, write about the people contesting the election, what was going on in different departments, and then I will paste it across the notice boards in the school throughout the night. So people wake up on Monday morning and they read the Mirror. And everybody was asking, who is this guy writing this Mirror? But nobody knew me. I was a first year student at that time. And then eventually, I started publishing a 16-page broadsheet called DK Scope after my hostel. My hostel was Kenneth DK. So I started publishing DK Scope. It was printed by 4 Dimension, who were the printers of Outlook newspaper, owned by Dr. Towanko, who later became a very good older senior brother and friend of Dr. Towanko at that time. So I've been involved in the media right from my university days. And when I came to work as a youth corps member, I was posted to work at the Secretary to Government's office. So I went up and met the SA to the Secretary to Government then, who was Gidado Idris. And that his SA was Dr. Babangida Aliyu, who later became the governor of Niger State. He was the SA to the GF. And I told him I could write speeches and all of that. And he started sending me speeches to draft for the SGF and as a youth corps member. So my activities then led to the office recommending me for the NYSC award to that was my own program, a campaign for exam ethics. I brought that up at a CD, which I developed at the NYSC. We had, drama skits for schools, and then we had organized a seminar for WAEC, JAM, and school staffs, which was done at the Sheraton Hotel in Abuja at that time. So I've been a very socially conscious person. I've always liked adding value, but the media had always been my attraction. So when I started working with Ojo Madekwe, when we travel abroad, the first thing I bought was the camcorder, because I will record all the events he has, all the speeches, write the draft of the press statements, and then send it back to Nigeria for NTA to use at that time. So, which was a very rigorous thing to do because there was emails were just coming, and so I had to fax it to media houses and wherever we were in the world. I would write a press release and fax. So I was acting as PA, protocol officer, media assistant at the same time. So my bag I carried was always my laptop, a small printer, and a camcorder because I had to print it out and then fax it to Nigerian media houses. So the camcorder was I used to tell young people today, I said that was my distinguishing factor. So that meant that Ojo wouldn't go anywhere abroad without me because I was the most utility player he had, who could do all. So he got me to travel around the world. So I had to constantly reinvent myself to remain relevant in the work I do. Because he had other assistants who also would travel with him. But he found me indispensable because I could multitask across all the functions during the trip.
So that led to your own media company now. I mean, talk to us about the media company, and then we talk some politics.
Yes. So, as in 2023, after the elections, I was head of the situation room for PDP in 2019 and 2023. And I had acquired tremendous knowledge about the electoral process, data analytics, and all of that. And after the election of 2023, I decided that I was going to now do something for myself. I was already studying law. I had finished from the undergraduate program, waiting to go to law school. That was what gave birth to the Athena Center for Policy and Leadership. I thought that I was good at the policy direction. I've had experience across government. I had worked for ExxonMobil after I left government, so I felt I had capacity for that. So in starting the Athena Center, which has grown tremendously over the past 2 years, it then came back again that we needed to amplify our ideas. That was where the idea first came from, that we needed to amplify our ideas. And then, of course, my media thing came back again. So we set up Clear Path Media. There was a lot of temptation to make it like every other Nigerian media house and all of that. But after a while, we figured there was a gap. We needed a public intellectual space. We needed to dominate the policy space to bring up ideas and thoughts from thought leaders, from ourselves, relying on the research done by the Athena Center and also other institutes. We could give clarity to Nigerians, because a lot of Nigerians really don't know the facts. The media houses are in a hurry. Everybody is listening to what people will click on, but there is really limited spaces where you go and you see unbiased opinion, evidence-based, policy-driven, to say these are the issues and this is why they matter, and this is how we can either go forward, or this is why other parts of the world are doing, and we can learn from this. So we decided to go to that space, and so far so good. It's a tough one for us because it doesn't quite have the virality that most YouTube channels will have, but we believe that if we persist and over time, we're going to be where some of you are today, who people have come to understand, to study the issues. I mean, whenever I listen to you on the media, I'm always amazed at your level of effort in keeping abreast with history and knowledge. You can't really have a media person handling policy issues without history, without constant reading. So that's the challenge I have with most Nigerian media houses. You could see the journalists are not prepared. They don't read and they don't specialize on an area. So here in the Athena Center, we are developing experts on different areas. So when we talk about our election practice, and we're going to start our election matters on the Clear Path Media, where we'll be sharing thoughts on the political landscape and explaining to people what has happened. Our review of elections that we've done now for 5 states marks us out as the only people in Nigeria who look at every polling station in an election, match it with what the BVAS says, look at what the IRF says, and come out with an opinion. So we've been able to show with clear data that elections has been tampered with at various stages and at what stage they were tampered with. We even go ahead to say the names of the electoral officers who tampered with these results, or at least who worked in that polling unit and who worked in the collation center. We have all their names. We have all the differences between what was originally done and what was finally collected.
And I'm already partnering with ClearPath already, because I did reshare some of your videos on my, Twitter page that's got about over 1 million, followers. And we definitely, as this content comes out, we'll definitely partner. But let me talk about two quick aspects of your life before we now go into politics proper. And we'll talk about 2019 and 2023 elections, because you had a better view of that. And I know some other people too that worked in the back end. So I have some inside gist that I'll ask you. But Federal Road Safety Corps Marshal to Aviation Minister, you revamped FRSC. I mean, the first time I met you, if you remember, was at a Microsoft conference. So it was over 10 years ago, when you were called upon to come and talk about the story of how you revamped AWIS and how you digitized FRSC with Microsoft products. That was where we first met. I mean, then you still look chubbier than now. Because a lot of people didn't know your chubby past. Then I was very big myself. I mean, since then I had lost over 40 kgs. So FRSC, is it that there's no challenge you cannot take on? Because you went in there, you revamped things. A lot of digitization that are happening today, you started it.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
I don't see any challenge in government that is not a challenge of data, process, and people. So it's always almost simple in my mind when I look at any problem. Because, and somebody told me that maybe I underestimate the impact of going to graduate school at George Mason University, living in Arlington, Virginia, and then spending time in Bethesda, Potomac area in Montgomery, where governance actually works. And the most successful school district is in Montgomery County, one of the most successful school districts in the US, and one of the richest. So that I seem to underestimate the impact those kind of exposure had. And really, I'm beginning to agree to that, because every time I see a problem, I see where is the data. So I became commercial, and I got these tons of files, and they said I need to sign these checks. I said, what are the checks for? It says for salary. And that when I sign them, they will take it to all the branches of AfriBank in the zones where we are, so that the money will clear fast. And the staff will deposit it there and then come back to Abuja. So every month, people left Abuja and went to the 12 zones of FRSC to drop checks countersigned by the core marshal. I said, no, this is not happening. This is not for real. I'm not doing this. So I'm going to sign this month and next month. But after that, please, there's something that the UBA calls payroll system by UBA that they have. Why don't we just sign up to the payroll system? So everybody said, oh no, government work. I said, there's nothing like government in it. We just get UBA. So we invited UBA, listened to their system, and I said, I signed off immediately. Just take over our payroll. Of course, AfriBank was upset. They were not happy, but they didn't have a digital payroll system. Guess what happened? It then turned out that for them to do that, they needed to have a proper staff list that is digital. So I said to them, okay, we can type out all our staff list and give you, but that will not be fair. Let's go back and do a staff count and do a staff verification in the process and impute it all in your system, using this your system. So the first digital payroll system of the government before IPPIS came was done by FRS. And it was just something that was in the market. So I said to UBA, what will you do for me for giving you this? This is our biggest account. What will you do for me? So they were looking, everybody was looking at me a little embarrassed when the Nigerian politician, the Nigerian head of agencies asking, what will you do for me? After a while, they said, well, we can discuss. Let us know what you want. I said, no, there's nothing to discuss. What I want is available now. Can you install VSATs in our 12 zonal offices so that the offices can transmit information to us at the headquarters, without needing to, then MTN data was not there. We didn't have all this data available today. So they balked. They said, that's a costly one. I said, no, install the VSAT, pay for 1 year. From the next year, I will take over the payment for the data. So they said, so UBA installed it. That was the beginning of the digitization of FRSC. So what used to require the zone to send a letter and bring somebody to Abuja, they started sending it by email to me using the office network. So I quickly awarded contracts to 3 IT companies to go and create local area networks in those 12 zonal offices. So that was the beginning of our digitization. So it was UBA that actually led us in that part. After that, we then sat down and looked at the budget of the federal government and saw that Galaxy Backbone has 5,000 visas they bought for Nigerian police, paid for by the federal government. So we reached out to them. They said, police is not taking it. So how many do you want? We said, we want 400. They said, deal, we'll give you 400. So all FRSC offices, driver's license centers were connected. So we had the widest local area, the largest wide area network in Nigeria at that time of any public institution. So in all of this, if you are listening, if you are taking notes, you see that I have not talked about any requirement for budget I haven't asked for any money from anybody. All this came from, you give me this, I give you this. And then at the end of the day, we look at government agencies, we looked at NITDA and saw that Obasanjo's government had paid for Microsoft when Microsoft invited me. They had paid for a global license for Microsoft. So we created emails at frc.gov.ng, powered by Microsoft Outlook, paid for by NITDA. So we were not paying any fees to Microsoft. And Microsoft was happy because people were not uptaking the licenses that Nigeria had paid for. So in all of this, I see that once the data started coming in, and we were able to begin to see our operations in real time, it was easy for us to figure out that Abuja, Zuba, Abuja, Kubwa, Zuba, Kaduna was our worst road in terms of fatalities. And then we figured that Kaduna to Kanu, around Jaji, was constant accidents around Jaji area. And we figured that that place needed treatment for us to solve that problem. So our approach became evidence-based. There was no more conversation about sharing vehicles to command. We now took our staff to where the crisis was. So Lokoja, Abuja, Hawan Kibu, going to Jos, Abuja, Kaduna, then going down south, Lokoja, Okene, Benin, then Ijebu-Ode Benin Highway. We saw there were areas where there were constant crashes. So we started bringing engineering techniques to solve those areas where there is a slope. Some places were just grasses blocking the view of drivers, so they couldn't see oncoming vehicles. Simple solutions like that were applied. And of course, I trained my staff in accident investigation at that time, together with the U.S. Embassy. Again, the U.S. Embassy paid for it. So at FRSC, we were able to leverage partnerships to get our work done. So while every other agency was waiting for the budget, we were always on the move because we were leveraging on partnerships, what is already existing to do the work. So FRSC was a proof to me that by the time I left, I could sit in my office and see when a vehicle is arrested, it will pop up a red pop on me. If I click on it, I'll see the name of the offender, the offense he committed, and the amount of fines he paid. So if you pay the fine, I see it immediately, fine has been paid. So we took it from 500 million naira a year fine collection to about 1.4 billion a year in fine collection, just by putting technology, creating visibility, and rewarding and punishing unit commands for their activity in arresting traffic offenders.
And with that, so that's to show that we've come a long way. Because this story you're telling, you first told it over 10 years ago. I mean, precisely about, I think, 13, 14 years ago, because I was the anchor for the event that day. I used to be Microsoft's standing MC for most of their events about, 14, 15 years ago. Then you were rewarded with Minister of Aviation because you now became sort of like a star boy in that Goodluck Jonathan's administration. You were rewarded, with Minister of Aviation. Talk to us about what you met on ground in aviation.
So President Jonathan wanted a driver's license. We finished building the new driver's license, which was very controversial, and he was the first person to take the license. And they said to me at the villa, you have to come to the villa to give him the license. I said, no, that defeats the aim. The aim is for people to know that you have to go to the driver's license center. So we built one at the FRSC headquarters, and we would like President Jonathan to come there to get his license because we're on a VPN. We can't set it up in the villa. It's the villa staff we are living. Passports, they come to give the president, embassy. Why are their own different? Everything with this Osita is always it's a problem. I said, you know what? The president doesn't need to come. He can always send somebody to represent him. Long story short, the president came. So when he came and did his license, he saw all this technology network. So he's briefed to me as aviation minister. That thing I saw in your office, I want to see it in aviation. I want our aviation to become tech. It was in an evening in his sitting room in the villa. And I said, I'll try my best. I will see if I can fix it. But this one took me all of 7 years to build. So we haven't won yet an election, but I'll try. So in aviation, the first thing I did was to look at our accident history. Because don't forget, my master's degree is in transportation, and transportation safety was an area I kind of specialized in. So I said, let's look at all the accidents that has happened in Nigeria, all the NTSB reports, and not NTSB, Nigeria's own now
AIB. AIB.
Let's look at all the it was AIB then. Now it's National Safety Transport Safety Board now in Nigeria. They've changed the name here. So AIB brought out all their reports, and I set up a committee to look at how many of these issues have been implemented. And we found out that we had almost 400 and something recommendations that hasn't been implemented. So I gave them a marching order to do that in 6 months. So by the time I left, we had a 93% closure on some of the open items that hadn't been closed, including some of them were very simple recommendations that didn't need any money or anything to do. So we first got that safety part right. And that laid the foundation for the safety we're enjoying in Nigerian airspace now. Then I studied the industry. NCAA had 16% technical staff, 84% administrative staff. FAN had 5,000 plus staff, the highest airport operator staff level in Africa. No other airport authority in Africa with our number of airports had this staff per capita. So I got PwC. We did a review of the industry. So I went to the president and I said, I need to put a surgical knife here and all of that. But they said, this is an election year. Can we take it easy? And all of that. I said, okay, we will see how we can manage it till after the election. Then I said, I want all the NAMA, NCAA, everything to speak to each other electronically. So we created the Aviation Connect, where we connected all our data. So I can tell you which airlines are keeping fidelity to their schedules. We were publishing monthly reports on Twitter, on Facebook, on how airlines are performing. You can go to our website and see which flight of the day performs better than others in terms of timing and all of that. And then we now started building a system for filing of flight plan, airport staff digitization, staff ID cards, people that go to the airside in the airport. We digitized all of that. So I began to have visibility on who was doing what. I needed to change some of the chief executives. One of my great plans was to bring in a foreign NCAA director general. I wanted to advertise it globally and bring in anybody in the world who was good at aviation safety to come to manage NCAA for at least a contract period of 4 years, during which we will retrain Nigerians on how to run a modern organization. I thought that NCAA was not modern at all, managing a very sensitive area like aviation safety and being the key regulator of the industry. So I looked at Dubai. Their NCAA was being managed by a foreigner. Of course, the Bank of England was being managed by a Canadian. So I said, why do we have to Nigeria be talking about Hausa Igbo? Let's make it global. If it's a Nigerian that is abroad who is qualified, of course, we'll pick him. And that didn't happen. But I would say that aviation was an interesting sport for me. Being able to digitize activities and being able to lay emphasis on safety over infrastructure. Because the idea of every aviation minister has always been the infrastructure. But I started talking about maintenance and safety as key attributes of the aviation ministry.
Okay,
and
so
to begin to aviation industry as a whole and not to look at them as different agencies.
why did you lose the governorship election in Anambra? Is there anything you could have done better?
Yeah. First was the zoning in Anambra. I didn't realize it was cast in stone for many people. That yes, they didn't think the governor was excellent, but they felt that every zone in Anambra needed to produce a governor. So I was coming from the zone that had produced 2 governors. And of course, everybody in the states in the other zones rejected that. Secondly was, I wasn't quite known in the states. they didn't know me. People knew me at the elite level, but I hadn't built my brand at the local level. So that's why I didn't run again when I realized that the zoning, because a lot of people, including people from my own area, said to me, you're such a wonderful guy, you could be a governor, but it's not our turn. And so, I figured that was the first factor. Because, of course, I digitized the whole campaign process. I reached out to voters via phone. I contacted word by word. We had an app. We had young people signing up. So that kind of...
You were jogging during your campaign video. Saw you jogging.
We were all the time, engaging young people. Because we had figured that young people were the majority. So we thought that we could sell a message that transcended the zoning. But of course, at the end of the day, everybody pulled back to our nativist instincts, and which I think is fair in any society. I think that zoning allows us the opportunity for people to realize that having our own has no direct impact on people's lives. I'm sure many people in the North, after 8 years of Buhari, I don't think they think very highly anymore of voting our own, because it didn't do anything for them.
So why did you support Atiku in 2023 when he went against the zoning, when you know the effect of zoning?
So in 2023, my argument was that if the zoning in Nigeria is not also micro-zoned, that the Southwesterner has been president for 8 years of Obasanjo, 8 years as VP, that Jonathan had ruled 5 years from the South-South, that the only people that you should zone to now is the Southeast. If it is that if it comes to the South, then everybody is free to run, then that's not zoning in my view. That the rules are now changing. Because in 1999, everybody was removed from running, including, what is his name now? The former Ono, who was former Minister of Science and Tech. He was the candidate of APP. They took away that candidacy and gave it to Olu Falaye, because at that time, the logic was that the Southwest needed to be pacified for June 12th. So if the country wasn't going to agree to the zoning, that the Southeast needed to now be allowed to run. And we are one of the smallest registered voter base in Nigeria in terms of vote share. So for us to emerge as president, there has to be some national consensus around the candidate. Telling us that we can run it with the Southwest and South-South and at that time, for me, was not going to work. So when I saw that Atiku was running for I said I was only going to support a Southeasterner for PDP ticket. I made my position clear. I'm not going to support anybody for PDP ticket. So Governor Wike, I will not support. Atiku, I will not support. I will support Peter Obi for ticket or Pius Anyim. So when Peter Obi left, I supported Pius Anyim to the end. But when Atiku emerged and the opposite was Southwest again to produce the president, I thought it was better for the presidency to go Northeast. I didn't think that the North was going to, at that time, they were already in bed with APC, vote for a Southern candidate, a Southeast candidate in a new party that was Peter Obi. I suspected at that time that the North was going to cast their vote for the APC, and that was going to be the decisive vote. And if you look at the voting pattern, the president got most of his votes from the Northwest.
So do you think it was fair to have supported a Northern candidate where it was just the end of an 8-year term from the North?
Yes.
And you now supported Atiku Abubakar. Was that fair?
My logic was that it wasn't fair for a Southwesterner to be president again under the guise of Southern solidarity. So if the country wasn't going to deal with that, then let's not.
So why didn't you guys in the PDP fight and say Atiku should have waited rather than him imposing himself and say let's keep it open where he knew he was going to emerge anyway? Why didn't you guys fight that?
I was one of those who was fighting that. But let me tell you where the thing got funny. When we had agreed that it would be zoned to the South, that we should tell Atiku not to run, then the PDP in the South refused to agree that it would be zoned to the Southeast. They said it will be open in the South. And of course, I knew the South. Wike was going to be the strongest person. His resource and everything, he will win the election. So that was when they said, if it is not going to be zoned to the southeast, and Atiku made that point, that if it is not to the southeast, then everybody is free to run, because South had produced a president, Jonathan, for 5 years. So it was the refusal in the south to agree to the micro-zoning to the southeast that led to the idea of throwing it open again. And those that were not from the southeast quickly agreed, thinking that they would win. So they said, okay, let's throw it open. But the logic was lock it in for the southeast, and then no other person will run. Because that 1999 model and the 2007 model remains my ideal for Nigeria. 1999, Olufalaye and Obasanjo, the rest of the country chose who they wanted. 2007, Buhari versus Yar'Adua from the same Katsina state, and we chose who we wanted.
Okay.
So now turn it around. When is the turn of the southeast?
Should you have just stayed away?
Possibly.
So in hindsight, you regret being in that campaign. Can I ask you this?
I don't regret being in the campaign, but it's one option I had to stay away from the whole campaign at that time. Yes.
Did Atiku win the 2019 general elections?
I haven't done a detailed analysis of the polling unit votes, but I'll tell you something today.
Okay.
If you look at the votes of 2019, President Buhari got 11.9 million votes in the north, in the 19 northern states. Atiku got about 11.5 or 11.4 from the whole country. The north, and this is the phenomenon called Buhari. Buhari is just a phenomenon that I haven't still understood. He won the election from Sokoto to Benue. This was like Ahmadu Bello reincarnated. He won the election from Borno to Kogi. So he got 11.9 million votes. The 3 million votes with which the 2-point-something million, 9 or 3 million votes extra came from all the votes in the south. So Atiku beat him in the south, which was 5-point-something million votes, and Atiku got 5-point-something million votes in the north. But he got 11 million votes in the north. So he did not, neither the Christian middle belt nor any part in the north let go of Buhari. He was just a phenomenon, which is why his output in office was just very sad for me, because that was one person that a whole part of the country looked up to. So my attitude to that election is that, and which was the problem of 2015 election, if you look at 2003 election, the core north voted against Obasanjo. But Obasanjo won from Lagos to Calabar, and then won in the middle belt, and up till Adamawa, where Atiku came from, and Taraba. So that kind of put the north in a minority situation, Buhari. By 2011, Jonathan won the whole of the south and won middle belt, and that gave him victory over the north, while the north was giving out roughly 20% of their votes to Jonathan. Now, in 2023, the north, the 19 states in the north cast 14 million votes, 14-point-something million votes. The 17 states in the south cast 9-point-something million votes. So there's a 5.3 million difference between the north and the south. So whoever will win from the south will need to mobilize the whole south. That will give you 9 million. Take it to the middle belt. That will bring us to 11 million plus, and maintain a 20% spread in the northeast and northwest. That will take the person across the victory line.
No, my question was, let me rephrase the question. You were in the control room. We know what transpired in the data room. Did Atiku win that election based on the data you had in the data room?
Yes, I'm coming back to that.
Not what INEC declared, but what was in your data room.
No. What was in our data room was not enough for Atiku to win the election.
Okay. Was not enough for Atiku to win the election.
To win the election. So my point was that we had not built our data room to collect data from polling units direct to our situation room. the APC had the same problem. Fashola was managing it on the other side. So we relied on our agents list. Some of them came almost 2 weeks after the election, some almost a month after the election. But so what INEC was releasing, which our agents signed up on, was supposed to be our primary document. And then we will cross-check it against our agent's own copy. But that agent's copy, we didn't build infrastructure, which is what I'm coming to about political parties in Nigeria, not building infrastructure to match INEC. We didn't have the infrastructure to collect this data in real time. So at that date, when people were bringing out those results and saying Atiku was leading, I never said so. I never endorsed those numbers because I had no evidence to support it.
But there was one particular one that you stood up and you pointed out when at the collation center. You said based on the data you had, it was different from what they declared. That was in 2019.
In 2019, at the collation center, my argument was that INEC was announcing results, and I said some results here do not reflect the pattern of voting in the country. Jigawa, for instance, had a turnout that was far above national average, and that I am calling for a review of those results because that the results don't make sense. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that there was no rigging, no touching of the numbers. I'm just saying I did not have the evidence to counter that. Because in the case of Imo and Bayelsa and Go, I had evidence. That's what I was able to say. There was rigging in these elections, and this is why it was rigged. I didn't have that evidence in 2019.
Did the PDP rig?
So my argument was...
Did the PDP rig?
Yes, INEC needed...
Did the PDP... If you say others rigged, did the PDP also rig in that election?
In which election?
The 2019 election. Yeah.
The PDP had no power to rig.
So all...
No power. Opposition parties had power to rig in Nigeria.
So all the votes they got is what they got?
Yes, I believe that.
Can you tell us what transpired in 2023 elections?
2023 election was a classic case of a divided opposition. So I always tell people there's no need to run any analysis on 23 election because if you put together the opposition votes, it's 14 million against 8 million by the winning party. So if the opposition, there's no way, whatever rigging anybody was doing did not work because the opposition votes were all clear from all their strongholds. So Atiku was at 6 point something, Peter 6 point something, 1 point something. So you could see clearly that any agreement amongst the opposition would have united them against the ruling APC. If you look at 1979 Shagari's election, Shagari won narrowly because, Aminu Kano took Kano and Kaduna, Wazir Ibrahim took Gongola and Borno axis, Zik took Anambra and Imo, Awolowo took the Lobo states up to Bendel. So at the end of the day, Shagari was coming second in every place. It's interesting to note that was the case of President Tinubu. He was coming second everywhere. Anywhere anybody came first, Tinubu was second. And the margins in the north against him was very low. So even when Atiku won in the northeast, he came a strong second. And in the northwest, he actually defeated Atiku in the northwest. A very unusual result, but my point was the margins were close to show that it was deeply contested. There was no, in the southeast, of course, Peter was dominant, and he even came second in the southeast over Atiku. And in the south-south, he also came second. In the middle belt, Peter took the Plateau Christian part, he took the Kogi Kwara side. So it was a classic election of a divided opposition.
As we wrap up, I want us to talk about your mom. Your dad, I saw the picture with your dad the other day. I mean, he's doing well at 91, still doing his exercises. But I want us to talk about your mom, and I know your mom was very dear to you.
Actually, he's 100.
It's 100. Oh, sorry, 100 years. And he's still doing all the exercise. I see where you get the genes from. But I want us to talk about what your mom meant to you.
Yes. My mom, like I said, I have converted my grief to action. So in public, I said, I don't dwell anymore about the grief. I am happy that after 15 years of suffering from cancer and dying from the effects of the cancer, that I am now able to help people who have cancer or who could have died without even knowing what was wrong with them to now find a way to be supported. So the NECA Chidoka Outreach Program, ncop.ng. If you go to our website now, you can find how to access the federal government cancer fund, which gives people up to 2 million naira to support them for cancer treatment. You can see which hospitals have the National Cancer Access Program, so you can access drugs, chemotherapy drugs at a reduced price from certain hospitals. You can also see diagnostic centers. And then on our own, we also do periodic medical missions to help people test for cancer. Early detection is the key to managing cancer. And my mother has experienced all those that. And she's a woman that gave her all for us. She worked very hard. She was struggling and very entrepreneurial to lead us to where we are. And I think that nothing can be greater tribute to her than our ability to support women from breast cancer, cervical cancer, and all those issues peculiar to women, and also some to men. But beyond that, we've also learned to support women, trading women in our communities. So we give them small grants to support their business, just in memory of her. So I'm so happy that her death has kind of allowed me to take grief to action and to stop dwelling on the past, but looking at the future with hope and with confidence that as I get resources, as my friends contribute, as others contribute, we should be able to support the hundreds of thousands of Nigerians who are today suffering from one form of cancer or the other without any hope. It is really a serious crisis situation. And that is why the two ministers in this government that I enjoy working with, the Minister of Health and the Minister of Education, are two ministers who believe in the power of data, who believe in using data to drive policy. So there are now 6 specialist cancer centers in Nigeria. Last year, I lobbied the National Assembly. I wrote to all the 360 members of the House, 109 senators, asking them to appropriate money to finish these cancer centers and also appropriate money for catastrophic health funding so that the federal government can fund more poor people who are suffering from cancer. I'm going to resume the campaign again next year, and I will be involving voices like yours to help us make these 6 cancer centers of excellence begin to work in Nigeria. That will save us a lot of foreign exchange. That will save a lot of life. So
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, and I'm sure that our life will continue to impact even in death. Thank you so much, Osita Chidaka, for being here, my guest. I really appreciate you more than words can tell. Let me allow you to enjoy your lovely afternoon. Thank you so much for your insight. Thank you. God bless you, my brother. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for talking to me. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you for your time. Thank you.
This is Potatoes Gang, and what sweet feeling to be back. It's hard to see a show that parents watch and want their children to watch.
The gang became a mirror of the issues in society, and it did it real time. Government just needs to mirror Potatoes Gang and say, let us create an enabling environment for entrepreneurship to thrive.
Truth and the pursuit of truth can be very lonely track to travel. Once your path is the path of truth, it doesn't matter if there are so many who are doing the wrong thing.
There are many sides to the truth. So someone is analyzing this particular policy today, and he's looking at it from a totally different dimension from the government that actually put forward the policy.
Out of 200 million people, we can't have a recycled politician over and over and over again.
Television shows come and go, they end, but people just didn't seem to want to let go of Potatoes Gang on the streets of Melbourne, Australia, down under. And some guys are screaming from a and I wanted, no, it's not possible. It can be. Democracy and modernity meet where a marketplace of ideas is created and rational public conversation takes place. Potatoes Gang is part of Nigerian legend. This is Potatoes Gang, and what sweet feeling to be back. And we've got Ubong Essien, we've got Salvation Alibo, and we've got Gamaliel. I mean, when you're Gamaliel, Gamaliel is enough. An ode to Potatoes Gang. In a very strange way, Potatoes Gang is part of Nigerian legend. I've been stopped by people all over the world who have said, hey, we've not seen Potatoes Gang for weeks, months. What's happened? And all of that. And I keep thinking, television shows come and go, they end, but people just didn't seem to want to let go of Potatoes Gang. I have had really interesting experiences in a variety of places. My favorite, on the streets of Melbourne, Australia, down under. Boulevard, downtown Melbourne. 3 lines, demarcation in the middle, 3 lanes, 3 lanes. And some guys start screaming from a Potatoes Gang. And I wanted, no, it's not possible. It can't be. And this guy, of course, Nigerian, literally runs across those 6 lanes, risking being knocked down, and comes to me and tells me a story of how his life was literally shaped by Potatoes Gang. And it was a very gratifying thing. However, the question is, why did Potatoes Gang come to be? Just a little about what drove it. Potatoes Gang came with the return to democracy in Nigeria. Civil society had been very strong under the military, trying to keep the military in check. As we were returning to democracy, civil society lowered its guard. Politicians were running wild all over the place in 1999. And for some reason, it kept coming to me that this is not what democracy is supposed to be. And my favorite philosopher of the public sphere, the German Jürgen Habermas, always there saying, in my head, democracy and modernity meet where a marketplace of ideas is created and rational public conversation takes place. Now, society can then take the best and use it to advance the common good of all and the well-being of everybody. And I am thinking, that's not exactly happening. We're not having a rational public conversation. And the idea of something that can make that happen just sparked. Of course, in life, there's a bit of imitation in everything. There's a show that I was very fond of called Capital Gang in Washington, and another one, McLaughlin and Company, from out of the US. And I thought, if you can take elements from McLaughlin and Co., Capital Gang, and some things that I can create, and create a platform for rational public conversation in Nigeria, it would be a decent contribution. And so the idea of Patito's gang was forged in my head. And its structure at the very beginning was a 90-minute show, 90 minutes. There was, of course, the gang, which is us here sitting as the gang. There was, and the gang was in two levels. There was a gang, senior gang. There was a junior gang. Ubong here, Ubong used to moderate the junior gang.
We called it Partitos Gang Phase 2, not Junior Gang.
Partitos gang 2. Because they were sharper, smarter, younger people.
Not necessarily.
And then there was Bullseye. Somebody in the heart of major policy issue looked him eyeball to eyeball. Production quality was fantastic. Producer was American, or director, or both. And the crane shots, we had to use the best studio in the country at that time, LTV Studios in Ikeja. And one episode took us an entire day to produce. And we had a segment reserved for youth, usually undergraduates, called the Parliament. This was, yes, Market Square, moderated at that time by the late Austin Mweze.
Well, Prof, I think for me, the gang became a mirror. It mirrored the issues in society, and it did it real time. As issues emerged, came onto the front burner, you were sure there was a next Partitos Gang episode to get on that matter. And in doing so, it held a mirror to people who were in positions of responsibility to get a sense of how the generality of Nigerians were either feeling or thinking about those issues in the real time, whether it was a very local issue or something that had international dimensions to it. I remember conversations such as one of the very popular ones that we talked about then was the spate of decline of visas. It was very rampant at the time, and a lot of people spoke about it, and the gang mirrored it.
And you know, we had field reports.
Yes, and
so
yes,
not
field
just
reporting.
all those on,
Yes.
on the gang, but we had cameras go to the streets and talk to people.
Exactly.
So it was as democratic as you could get.
Yeah, and we talked about, I mean, nothing was off the list. Sports was on the list, politics, the economy, basic things that affected people in generally was always going to be on Partitos Gang. And one of the interesting things I found was that whatever the senior gang missed, you could be sure that when we got to the parliament, Gang 2 would pick up. We were always very interested, more interested in what affected the younger people. That's why we talked about, for many who wanted to jackpot at the time, who were not getting visas, we had to talk about it and call everybody out. But I think that the market square, you always had those, the audience, that was really the pool where people could ask questions and surface what I would say the inconvenient side. Because sometimes the senior gang, you did have some members of the gang who were convenient discussants. Yes, who were convenient discussants, understandably. But when it got to the market square, with the way it opened up, you started then, the late Austin Mweze continued, young people could speak. The likes of Taiwo Akerele would ask very radical questions, and all in a bid to get answers. So it was all inclusive, and I think that was what made Partitos Gang tick the way it did. It reflected all of us.
Yes, inclusion. Inclusion is a powerful thing. When we started, President Obasanjo was in power, and there was nothing they didn't go to him to say to him about. You see, Patrick Tommy started that thing so that he can abuse you. And after a while, like every human being in these things, he got very offended with me. I had chaired the committee that worked on policy for him as candidate of Obasanjo, and we had established a certain relationship of quarreling from back then. And so he took, somebody will go and meet Obiase will call me, say, Baba is very upset with you. I said, why is he upset with me? That they said the Partitos Gang is to abuse him. I said, okay. Let him tell him it's democracy. Waziri Mohammed called me. You see, they say that you have joined this Bola Tinubu in AD. That is because of it that you are abusing Obasanjo. I said, me. It's okay. My AD card, even though I don't have one, I can display it on Partido's gang. You know, we made light of it, but truth and the pursuit of truth can be very lonely track to travel. You know, and it takes, I guess, something. I often used to say to people when they say to me, my friend, calm down. I have no opinion. This is a collection of opinions of all these people who are here. I just want it to be aired. There's no, I don't care about my own point of view. I'll put it down there like everybody else. But remember Elijah and the prophets on Baal. Once your path is the path of truth, it doesn't matter if there are so many who are doing the wrong thing. So it was costly, but did it have any real impact? The society, some people argue that it didn't change. Nigeria just got worse and worse in spite of those ideas.
And the truth with the Partitus gang is the fact that it brought intellectual honesty, democratized opinions. That was really the value it gave to the populace. Okay, this show, they came to believe in it because they could see the honesty in the conversations. Like you said, there are many sides to the truth. Okay, so someone is analyzing this particular policy today, and he's looking at it from a totally different dimension from the government that actually put forward the policy. And then there's someone else on the show who is probably thinking on the side of the government, thinking, okay, this is probably what they want to solve. Okay, so do we jettison this to follow your own idea? So it brought this kind of democratized opinions, okay, and then the intellectual honesty was very palpable to everybody. So people could look towards the show to say, okay, I want to make a sense of what this government is even talking about. This policy they want to talk about, I'm very sure it's going to come up on Partitos gang, okay? This burning issue in the country today. And so when it comes up, I used to remember that catchphrase, and we are right back.
We are back. That was straight back.
That was so beautiful to watch, you know. So, and that was it. So people just wanted to make sense of what is happening in the society, and then Atito's gang was providing it for them.
And another thing about it was, it's hard to see a show that parents watch and want their children to watch. That's a very unique thing, because I've met people all over. I met one fellow in Philadelphia at the airport, and he's a consultant. I don't know, one of the big five or whatever. You know, was flying, and he saw me at the airport, and he ran and said, "Look, I became what I am because of Partido's gang." I said, my father will wake us up because he used to run late at night. Wake us up. Hey, wake up. Come and watch television. Come and watch television. And I thought, oh, that's nice. Poor fellows lost their sleep because of this thing.
And you know something, probably good side to Partitos gang was the editorial dimension. There was no room for censorship. What was the prevailing value was the conversation, the issue, the burning issue. And so when we all showed up, you could expect a variety of arguments around the issue. Absolutely. And so you couldn't really preempt. So if there was going to be any measure of control from Prop, it just was not going to work on a Partitos gang.
I could just stop P.D. Jason, by the way, one of those I didn't mention. When talking about those who have gone. I could stop P.D. Jason from expressing his view. Which is why we wanted people of that caliber that you couldn't say, my friend, what are you saying? You know, and that really did have effect. But another part, Gamaliel, on this, which I found was interesting, is besides all that talk about policy, politics, and social life, if you will, there was continuous effort to teach entrepreneurship. Some people thought it was actually an extension of the business school. I remember a former dean of the Lagos Business School used to say to me that when they interview people applying to the MBA, a good significant majority said
Yeah.
they were coming there to get formally what they were hearing
That's
of
what
Potitoes
I'm
gang.
saying.
You know.
There was.
So many of those people, their careers were literally doctored by listening to ideas. Yet, I think that we didn't succeed enough because the spirit of enterprise is not as strong as it should be in Nigeria. In my view, we still have a country dominated by rent seeking. People want to extract rent and all of that. So maybe what we'll do is we'll take a break. When we come back, maybe Gamaliel can lead off on how does the spirit of enterprise, which Potatoes gang gave so much to making come alive, really manage to become the culture? Because we cannot make progress unless we begin to produce in this country. Okay, we'll be back. This is Potatoes gang. We are back. This is Potatoes gang, and we are remembering Potatoes gang as it has been 26 years or so ago. It came on air, and one of the first commentaries around where it was coming from and going came from the then Director General of the Nigerian Television Authority, by the way, Engineer Vincent Maduka, who had known me from when I was a kid in Loyola College in Ibadan. And he had seen 3 episodes, I think. I was in the Hilton in Abuja. He saw me. He said, Patrick, brilliant, beautiful, wonderful, but it's not sustainable. I said, Jabawa, you know, too expensive to produce. The technical quality is not realistically what you can do every week. You won't be able to find the resources to keep this on air. Turned out he was right, but not immediately. I mean, we managed dramatically to keep this on air. 1, 2, third year, as a 90-minute show with those extraordinary shots that were coming from the sky and all of those things from our crazy producer director, Lloyd Weaver. And then, of course, we then cut it to 1 hour and later to 30 minutes, you know, drop in technical quality, but the conversation remained the same. But one thing that was constant in those conversations, entrepreneurship. How do we stimulate enterprise? Did we fail? Because our country has not really become an entrepreneurial country. It's a money-making country. People idolize the money, they worship it in many ways, but that's not an enterprise. Can't sustain it. It's only stealing. You're taking from one pocket and putting in another pocket and all of that, most of it.
So, Patitos Gang has always been the marketplace of ideas. And because we speak to power, the best we can do is to speak to policy or speak about policy, the macro and the micro components. Because we are not policy makers, there's very little we can do. However, I do not think that Patitos Gang has failed because the statistics say that the informal sector account for between 40 to 45 of our sector component. MSMEs are likely creating jobs, paying taxes. Maybe what we should do, like Ubong said, is for the government to mirror the show and create enabling environment for entrepreneurship to thrive. Tax cuts, tax rebate, infrastructure. So kudos to Patitos Gang because a lot of businesses have embedded from this place. And we are still counting them. So I think that, like Ubong said, government just needs to mirror Patitos Gang and say, let us create an enabling environment for entrepreneurship to thrive. Politics should not be a second address, as it were. So you should just go in, serve 4 years, and move on. Because out of 200 million people, we can't have a recycled politician over and over and over again. So Patitos Gang has come to stay. It's a marketplace of ideas, and entrepreneurship will still continue to thrive, as it were.
Beyond the roles that government play. The enterprise ecosystem is both government backed and private backed.
Absolutely.
Majorly, I would say largely in the private backed individuals. Okay. For the populace to get into entrepreneurship, there has to be that individual awareness that this is a path to go and this is how to go about it. I think if you're trying to measure the growth of entrepreneurship from when Patitos Gang started about being 26 years ago till now, you see that entrepreneurship has actually gained ascendancy. It has grown, okay? And more persons have gone into it. It's not about how many persons are adopting it, but how many persons know the how. All right, how many persons can actually veer into entrepreneurship, execute it without feeling stalled or frustrated. And sometimes when the common man is feeling frustrated, he takes it out as the problem of the government. But most times, largely, it's because they don't know the how. He does not know how entrepreneurship works. Okay, I think when we're having these conversations, we should also have the conversations on you need to know how this is done. Okay, it is important to embrace entrepreneurship, but if you want to go into it, this is go learn how it is done. There are hand-holding systems in place that can help you. Now, from the side of the government, like Dominic was saying, there are roles that government plays, but these are mainly policy kind of roles.
Yeah.
Okay, I would say that government tried probably to adopt the entrepreneurship enabling policies. I remember there was the jail program and different programs, but they appeared more like wound dressings. Okay, like they were very
strategic at all.
yeah, so it wasn't strategic, it wasn't institutionalized.
Long planning.
Okay, yes, there
Wasn't
was
looking
no
to the
long plan
future.
to it. Granted, there were a lot of entrepreneurs that came out of
Absolutely,
it.
absolutely.
I mean, but most of the persons really didn't follow through. It wasn't sustainable at the end of the day. So, government role should really be in providing the hand-holding systems, all right, that can help an entrepreneur navigate its path. All right, information centers, scholarships to learn how to run this. All right, there's enterprise development center. There's Sweden. There are places where they can get useful information. Government can make access to this knowledge and information free for those who really have the brilliant ideas to do it, and then the policies really to make the kind of fund that an entrepreneur, a startup business needs. Because not every fund, like bank, is not where you go to when you want to start a business.
Well, your debt equity ratio is a function of the nature of the business. Some businesses
So
start them heavily on debt. You're dead from some might be more inclined to that, and so on and so forth. But just before we go, and we have to go now, a quick one about talking about capital and funding. The mystery of how Patitos Gang has stayed on air for more than 2 decades. Nigerian elite fear truth. They like it, but they're afraid. They don't want to touch it. Famous is a statement that I publicized in a column years ago. A very good friend of mine, very successful banker, and loved the show so much. He calls me and says, "Oh, Pat, what a fantastic show." And I said to him, "I'm glad you love it. We need some advertising from you." And he goes, "Oh, you guys are too candid on that show. I don't want those people in Abuja to think I'm the one putting you on it. But the day you do sports, let me know. I'll pay 3 times as much on the space so that you can use the money to do
the more candid show. Then the strategy, maybe there should have been a sister show that people could sponsor for 3 times, and then use it to pay for particular. Because I remember last time we were having a chat with Chief Obasanjo, and he said, I am part, we have this frenemy relationship. We're friends sometimes, and then we're enemies sometimes. He talks too much. He acknowledged the fact that some of the facts are needed to, give an angle, a different angle, different perspective to someone in leadership. But then he says, sometimes it's something you could have told me.
It's fine.
I agree with him sometimes. Sometimes you should just call you and just tell you, but then a Potatoes Gang was really important show.
Perhaps you should ask Prof how he's managed to support that program. Of course, there were other areas of support. How have you not gone broke, Prof?
Well, I've always been broke. People just don't know. The part of it that I find the most interesting is that in the early days, particularly, when businesses were scared to advertise, the people that supported us were actually government parastatals. And that is the paradox. I mean, when NS Ndukwe ran NCC, when Bello Gwandu ran Nigerian Ports Authority, Ferdinand Ago and NIMASA, they gave us significant funding that kept Potatoes Gang on air. And so when I think of it, you are afraid that government should think you are supporting this show, but government agencies
Is also
are
funding
supporting it. It was a paradox that, but it shows that it's personality based.
Yeah, it is.
Those individuals, of course, when NS Ndukwe left NCC, Bello Gwandu left, Ferdinand Ago left, those possibilities declined and stuff like that.
And for me, I think that, Prof, with the advent of social media and technology, I do not think the Potatoes Gang will be dying anytime soon. YouTube is the greatest enabler. I mean, streams and streams. So we just have to be consistent. By the time we churn out this content, business schools take it, they can go back there, refer the MBA candidate, go and check, do and check. So I think it should be self-funded. But some people might not be associated with you in public, but they will in private because of your goodwill. And I'm very, very sure that this show would definitely outlast you. I'm very, very sure.
Absolutely.
All right, we've got to go. Wonderful looking back, and hope that we can see the future as clearly as we are seeing the past. This country, I used to say, will rise up again. In fact, ringtone on my phone for many years was Nigeria will rise up again. Nigeria will rise up again. Anyway, here's believing that Potatoes Gang will be a small part of Nigeria's rise up again. We'll see you next week.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
My sister has asked questions around the insecurities bothering Nigeria, especially Northern Nigeria. The large part, of the North is still suffering from the banditry, terrorism, and kidnapping for years. And these are said to be linked with the open border policies that we have. So, the porous borders have been blamed for the influx of illegal migrants, as well as the movement of arms and cross-border criminal groups. What specific policies and actions will the administration implement to secure Nigeria's border while maintaining legitimate trade and respecting regional agreements with the neighboring countries? Number two, many Nigerians believe that weak border control has contributed to, I've asked this question. So let's answer this. And also, what are you going to do to tackle the insecurities which leads to more job losses for the farmers, and some farms have been abandoned because of this? What exactly are you going to do to tackle that?
Okay. There may be a three-pronged approach to this: the immediate, the medium, and the longer term. The cause of the insecurity in the north is largely poverty. The northern part of Nigeria, which I'm quite familiar with, was probably one of the safest parts of the country, where farmers could produce their crops and where you really saw the values of human beings in the north, right? You could literally leave your door open and without fear that you'd be burgled. People were honest. People were not crafty. Craftiness is a product of trying to take advantage of a situation because of an inadequacy. So you've got to deal with that, and globally or nationally, you've got to deal with the poverty of our country. In the interview I gave recently, I drew a line between our growing poverty levels, right? I took a benchmark of 1980 when Shagari was president and today, 46 years after, and how society and the values have virtually collapsed. We want to blame it on the influx of people coming in from other countries. I disagree. A lot of the banditry is local, right? Yes, you have people coming from other countries, but let's not allocate the problems to them. We also have our own issues. At the borders, there's technology today, right, to man borders. I mean, recently we heard of the Americans from the Atlantic, right, targeting terrorists in Sokoto and another one by the Chad Basin. They were the missiles that were fired were from the Atlantic. Even right now, as we speak, the Department of Border and Immigration, they're already applying some of those technologies. But if you speak to them, they require more resources to police our borders. The borders we police are usually the airports and the seaports, but the land borders are left unhinged. You can't build a fence across, right? But you can police it using modern technology, drones and all sorts, right? To ensure that you know where people are coming from and you can quickly respond to it. That will be in the short term. The medium term to the longer term, you've got to focus on getting the people there productive. As long as people are not productive, they're going to find ways of survival. It could be through begging. And when things were going south, when things were going really bad, the begging increased. And so you had beggars
primarily from the north drifting to the south, which is also a reflection of the economic status across the country. So they perceived that the south was more economically viable. So there was a drift coming down to the south. Okay? The more a society is, people are going to find where to survive. It's like looking for water, right? Which is a basic requirement for life. If there's a drought in a particular part of the land, people are going to drift to where they can find an oasis to get water. The same thing. So people are going to drift and all that and put pressure. So if you study the problems that we have today, people are drifting towards areas that are considered more economically viable. Okay? And so you've got to stem that. You stem that by making sure that they're productive. I've always said that anything that is essential must be local. Okay? So food production, water, the basics of life must be. That's what keeps people where they are. So like I said, apply more technology in cross-border movement, right? Grow local economies to keep people within the environment, and more importantly, to stymie them from taking to crime like fish to water. I can draw a line from the economic fortunes of Nigeria, right? And trace it alongside the criminal tendencies. And you find that when the fortunes dip, right, criminality rises. Now, I'm not saying there'll be no crime if we had a prosperous society. There will still be crime, but not at the levels that we see today. Like I said earlier, I grew up in my conscious teenage years in the North. I know what the society was back then, right? I know that kidnapping was so alien to that. I know that banditry was that. You could see, like I said, you could see the real humane values in people, right? And the North was looked upon as a place where people still had humanity and values within. But the moment things started going south economically and poverty became stark, like I said, people will do whatever they need to do to survive. So it's not just one item solution. Yes, you've got to protect your borders because you're policing a known state, right? Even if there was no banditry involved, you can't let your border be a free flow because it allows smuggling, it allows all sorts of things to come in. So you police borders, address it today using technology, satellites and all sorts of things. Satellites can tell you people who are crossing the borders. Satellites today can even read the plate number of a car, right? So if you have your stations, you know where people are coming in and you arrest it. That's one. But even beyond that, if your economics is not working, you're going to have those challenges. You've got to ensure that people, and that's why, I say each state should not just be a political unit. It should be an economic unit. Everyone should be productive. Everyone, I don't know how I'm going to say this. I've said it often enough. If it's agriculture, which is more akin to the North because of the large expanse of land, you've got to make sure that that is productive enough and the market is there. So coming back to it, the approach is simple, two-pronged or three-pronged. But firstly, of course, you've got to deal with the issues at hand, right? You've got to deal with the problems of security as we have it today, the kidnapping, the banditry, the terrorism and all that. But even beyond that, those things are consequences of other things, consequences of a very poor economy, right? And of course, consequences of not managing your borders properly, because we are now a focal point. With the collapse of Libya, a lot of arms have started moving south there, right? And, they call them Islamic terrorists. I don't like that word because I don't think they're driven by Islam, not the Islam I know, right? they just use that connotation to describe it. Rather, I think these are destructive elements. And you can see that when they go into communities, they collect taxes, they do this, it's all towards collection of building a resource base for themselves. So you've got to police a society better than we're doing today, much, much better than we're doing today. You've got to ensure that people have a means of livelihood, and at the same time, you've got to curb the ones that come into your society, into your country.
Oil exploration has begun in parts of northern Nigeria, raising hopes for economic growth. Beyond oil, what's your strategy for developing other mineral resources and in industries in the north to create jobs and reduce dependence on single policy?
The rush to produce oil is not synonymous with wealth. You must have commercial quantity and all that. And I sometimes think it's overplayed. There's oil in the Chad Basin, say all that. Is it in commercial quantity? I think the real wealth of the North, beyond agriculture, is the mineral deposits there. There must be a structured way of mining. Today is artisan, and it's not the broader community, the broader society, the nation itself does not benefit from those resources. Take, for instance, the gold in Zamfara. Zamfara probably has, I don't know, as much gold as all of Ghana does. Ghana was once called the Gold Coast. It just tells you how much gold there is in Zamfara, but it's artisanal way of mining, and it has also attracted banditry and all those, because the state, largely, Nigeria is a largely unpoliced state, okay? So I would, if you now make each state an economic entity, I think it encourages the states and the governments in those states to focus on those minerals that they have. If I were in charge, alongside the states, we would do an evaluation. I know they have done this, but we'll do beyond doing an evaluation of what is in each state, we would go further and do proven reserves, right? So if, for instance, you're looking at columbite or any other mineral, yes, we can say columbite exists here, but let's go further and determine the proven reserves of columbite or lithium or whatever we want to do. Once you develop it to that level, you make it more attractive for investors to come. And this should be a joint venture between the state and the federal government, because the revenues from those resources will be shared by both state and federal government. But nobody's going to invest if there's no security. Part of the loss in the south, in the Niger Delta region, is when security broke down, right? Which was also a function of increasing poverty, even in those belts, right? The investors there, the oil companies, the international oil companies, they moved out. And they prefer now producing oil from the deep sea, which is considered safer than onshore. Okay, so security is an important aspect, but make it easier for the investor to come in with and invest in proven reserves, not come in and do all the exploration and all that, okay? So this is, because the state and the federal government is involved, they can jointly fund it. What the Ministry of Solid Minerals has done to date is they have determined where we have all the minerals in the world, in Nigeria. That was in fact done by the colonial government, okay? But we took it further, so we can tell you that there's this amount of, there's columbite here, there's lithium here, there's gold here and all that. The quantities, the proven reserves have not been established. That's what we ought to do. When you have that package, if I have a package that says there's a proven reserve of, say, 1,000 tons of gold in here or columbite here, now you're marketing something that is viable, okay? Than just saying that we have traces of them, because there are traces of minerals all over the world.
So talking of mining, illegal mining has been linked by many security experts and government officials to the financing of criminals criminal networks and insecurity in some parts of Nigeria, what specific measures would your administration take to formalize the mining sector, curb illegal mining, and ensure that local communities benefit from their natural resources?
First of all, like I said, you've got to strengthen security throughout the length and breadth of Nigeria. Beyond that, once you establish the security and it's in place, like I said, the next step is going into proven reserves. The local communities must be seen as beneficiaries of their resources. So just as we say, for instance, in the South, there's derivation and all that, so the local communities benefit from the oil that is produced in their region or in their communities. The same thing should apply to every community so that they're beneficiaries, right? And if they're beneficiaries and security is strengthened so that bandits don't take advantage of it, okay? It works for everyone in society. The bandits take advantage of this because it's an illicit way of funding their activities. But what do the bandits want? They want more wealth. So it funds them to acquire more and more and more and more, okay? Most governments, most state governments and local governments know where these bandits are, know who they are, right? They interact with them. They're not ghosts. But they don't enforce that aspect. And the primary function there is ensuring that there's security so that the economic activities and all other activities can function. So in a nutshell, what I would say is, first of all, deal with the security issue, right? And you've got to be ruthless in this. Once that is done, formalize that sector. So if, for instance, I'm going to be drilling a particular mineral in this area, the community should be entitled to something, right? Then they consider themselves stakeholders. Right now, they're not stakeholders. So everybody's trying to do whatever he can do. The artisanal manner of mining is because the rural poor are going to get some money from there and all that. Nothing goes to the state. So once you formalize the sector to ensure that the community is a beneficiary, the local government is a beneficiary, the state is a beneficiary, and ultimately the nation is a beneficiary, right? All coming together, they will protect that resource. But right now, nobody sees himself as a stakeholder. So it's free for all. Whatever you can get, keep.
Okay, so we will take just 2-3 questions because I think they said that they have another interview somewhere.
I thought I was taking them out. I thought they were going for lunch somewhere.
So climate change is affecting rainfall and harvests, especially in the north. What investments will your government make in irrigation and water management?
Already as we speak, there are, if I recollect, between 300 and 400 irrigation and water dams, particularly in the northern part of Nigeria. Make them work, right? If you have these dams that store water, right, you need to just you have a base where you can irrigate thereafter. So I don't think it's because we are not putting the dams to use that drought and the vagaries of climate affect it. We can mitigate that by making sure that the dams work. They provide the water that is required for irrigation. On the other hand, climate change, as we call it, causes floods, right? Far more than maybe rainfall you'll get in over a year, you get in a week or in 2 weeks. So it causes floods. That is a more difficult situation than drought because you can mitigate the drought. And like I said, there are a large number of idle dams in the north that not only would produce water for irrigation, that also can be used for some level of hydropower. Okay, so it's getting those things to work. I think primarily we need to focus on. We have all these river basin authorities. We have various dams, so many of them in various sizes. But how many of them are really producing? Very few. We have enough dams to ensure that there's food production year-round in Nigeria, particularly in the north. So in the rainy season, they have enough natural water coming from the skies, and in the dry season, they can mitigate it from the dams. But unfortunately, we budget for those things. A lot of them are built, but hardly used, or hardly used appropriately.
Northern Nigeria has one of the highest numbers of out-of-school children in the world. What measurable targets would you set for reducing this number? Number one. Number two, what role do you see for mandatory education reform? Would you integrate Islamic and Western education more effectively? How are you going to do that?
I've maintained consistently that every brain untrained is a drain on the nation. Every brain has to be trained. Every hand has to be skilled, right? This applies nationwide. So you've got to make education compulsory, right? And enforce it. Parents should be held responsible for any child that is not in school. But before you do that, you must ensure that the schools are there, right? So it's not going to happen overnight. The policy may be there, but you must give a time frame within which it's fully implemented. And there must be consequences for not training or not sending a child to school. Because if you don't send a child to school, the child is not adequately trained or skilled, the child becomes a parasite in society. So the homestead, the family have a responsibility. Let me give you an example. On a trip abroad, actually to Houston, I was in a shopping mall and a couple of policemen were chasing a young boy, probably about 13 years old. And he was running, scuttling all over the place. And I happened to ask one of the policemen, what is his offense? He said he should be in school. They were enforcing that policy. Now, because of the levels of poverty in our society, not only must you enforce it, you must make it free. You must make it free. If you want to make it compulsory and it's not free, it won't work. Those who want to go to private schools and pay, they can do that. But basically, everyone in society must have not just an education, but a skill. Now, it's no different from the Almajiris, right? Or the people we term Almajiris. And this has grown over time. I said to you that earlier that I did part of my education in the north, Sokoto precisely. And then as kids, we'll go to the refectory, the refectory to eat. And once we leave, you have a horde of these people. Then we used to call them buzus and all that, rushing in to take the leftovers. This was in the 70s. We did nothing. Those kids today are the bandits on the streets. Those kids yesterday who were going after our leftovers are the bandits on the streets today. They're the kidnappers and all that. It comes around. What goes around comes around. We need to take care of them. We need to ensure that we need to properly organize a society. From the time you are born, right? You are a person in Nigeria, so you have a record, you have a number. Okay? And it's done in other countries, so it's not an impossible theory that I'm postulating, right? You should be able to say, if I say, how old are you? You say 7, I automatically know what class you ought to be. By the time you are 18, I know that, okay, at the age of 18, this chap has finished secondary school and probably acquired a skill. Have you grown the economy large enough to absorb them? Those are the phases that you have to follow in society. If you don't do that, then you'll end up having the problems, because we saw these things growing, right? The population was smaller, the effect wasn't there. But I think it's dehumanizing for people to live on the leftovers of others. And we saw it happen. I saw it in Sokoto between 73, in the 70s when I was there. When I was in Ahmadu Bello University, I saw it, but it was and it was growing, right? By 1980, we had the Maitetsine phenomenon, right? And so besides the governance issue with Nigeria, which is very poor, right? We have neglected a large segment of the population. It's embarrassing that a country that was considered one of the wealthiest in Africa, today we still tout that we have the largest economy in Africa. That's not true. We're living a lie. It sounds, there's a nice sound bite to it, though Nigeria is the largest economy in Africa. No, Nigeria is one of the poorest when you take per capita income, and that's what you should measure, not the gross. If all we were producing in Nigeria were kuli as we have been advised to do, right, we'll still be a large economy in terms of GDP. But individually, what is our capital base? It's very poor. Most of these countries that we laugh at have a higher income per capita, right, than we do. So it all comes down to productivity. The idle mind is a playground of the devil. That is true yesterday, today, and will be tomorrow.
Illegal drugs have found their way to this country, and they are very accessible, which leads to drug abuse. And it's becoming a growing concern, especially in the northern Nigeria. How would your administration address this?
Drugging or psychedelic drugs, choir, as we'll call it in the north, is a lack of policing, a lack of education, right? Frustration. In the past, those we used to call Dan choir in the north were largely the poor people. And they were expressing their frustration. So they want to live in La La Land, right? Let the days drift away, right? Under the influence of these psychedelic drugs. Today, it's become an urban problem. Young graduates, even housewives, which was unheard of before in the north, are now, there's hardly any family, particularly in northern Nigeria, that is not afflicted by this. So it comes down to the frustration. What is the frustration? They have no jobs. So they take to it. That's one. The other one is policing. Okay? The drugs that come from outside the country, we're not policing our borders properly. Recently, we're talking of tramadol. Well, tramadol is a prescribed drug. The problem is that those who indulge in it as opioids are not taking it as a prescribed drug. It's like codeine, it's like cough medicines that have codeine in them and all that. They even sniff, today people sniff petrol. But the underlying reason is to escape from their reality. That is the underlying reason. So again, and I've said this over and over again, it's becoming a broken record. The primary responsibility of government is to ensure the productivity of our citizens. If each one of us is productive and doing well, why would I want to escape from my reality? My reality is good. But if my reality is bad, then I'll look for an escape route. So we've got to look at this very seriously. It's not just enacting a policy that you have got to punish them and do this and do that. What led them to this? I'm not saying that if everyone is productive and all that, there'll be no drug abuse. It will be there, but it will be in proportions that can be managed. Like I said to you earlier in this statement, growing up, and you've asked this, the national problem, but you've asked this specific to the north. We had those who were taking choir. Choir is a form of hallucinatory drug, but it was all local and was at the bottom of the economic chain. The poorest people went for choir. Today, like I said to you, hardly any family in the north won't you find this problem. It's there. And you find that these are young people who are educated, who have gone to school. Some of them schooled abroad. They come back, they're frustrated. They have nothing to do, from prominent homes. And just take to drugs. Then they get addicted. Then it becomes a problem. Is that addiction? They can't, it's not a one-off thing. They take addiction, and the drugs today are more potent than they were yesterday.
Your Excellency, why should voters, why should Nigerians trust your promises when previous governments made similar commitments? That's one.
I'm tried and tested. I want to say that. It's not my first foray into this business, right? At what I'll call a tender age of 37, I took on a state and I got the state to work, right? You see, in our constitution, we have what we call eligibility clause for public office. That eligibility clause is one, you're above a certain age, you have a minimum level of education, maybe school cert, you are not a convict and all that. Those are eligibility. We don't have what we call suitability clause. Before you seek to public office, what are your antecedents? What were you doing before? Then you can judge a person. But if you find someone, all his eligibility is that maybe he was in the House of Assembly and now he wants to be governor, that doesn't make you eligible. What have you done in the past that we can ensure or can entrust our future to your hands? So what am I coming with? I'm coming with what I consider suitability, proven and tested. My word is my bond. I'm not seeking public office because I'm looking for a job. For me, politics is a vocation, not an occupation. Too often today, people see it as an occupation, so it's a do or die affair. People who have there are many people who have no jobs and all they're looking for is run for some public office so that they can earn an income from there. Once that is your life view, becomes an occupation for you. That's all you want to do. So I think what is missing in our public life is, whilst we have an eligibility clause, you must be beyond a certain age, you must have minimal qualification, blah, blah, blah. We want to see your suitability clause. What were you doing before, right? What are your antecedents? Because we can't entrust so much to you with little to judge you by.
Your Excellency, the final question would be, if you could make only one or two promises specifically to the northern Nigeria, what could it be? How would Nigeria hold you accountable for delivering?
What the North is looking for is really not different from what the South is looking for. Let me start from there. We're all looking for a good life, whether North or South. We play this North and South, Christian and Muslim, because you've got to use what you've got to get what you want. So if, for instance, from the South and a Christian, I say, oh, there are not enough Christians that are employed from the South and all that. So we play each other on those things. But where there's enough for everyone, who cares how you pray? Who cares where you come from? That is one. Now, specific to the North, you can't have a nation that is doing well and one part of it is doing well and the other part is not doing so well, right? All parts of this nation must be brought within the economic umbrella, okay? So if there are parts that need to catch up, you've got to emphasize on those parts. Because even if you are a bigot, a tribal bigot, right, even for self-survival, if those parts not doing well, right, are ignored, they'll bring down the parts that are doing well. And it's vivid and in Nigeria today. Like I said to you, at one